Okay, so today I'm going to demonstrate how I created the running kitten effect yesterday. It's basically just going to focus on the principles of After Effects. It has nothing to do with the actual drawing of the animal. So we're going to start by creating a new composition. We'll call this the room. Um, Generally, I work in a higher resolution, but because I'm going to try to stream After Effects, I'm going to try to do this in 4K as opposed to 8K and 16K. So this is going to be 3840 by 2160. We'll just make it 30 seconds long. So that'll be our main. So a lot of these elements I already have drawn. Like I said, I'm not going to deal with any of the drawing elements today. So that being said, I'm going to import some of my basic files. We'll do this and this, and then we'll bring in the couch. So I would say I believe this is kind of a beginner lesson, but that being said, After Effects took me so long to comprehend, what actual elements, what compositions were. I couldn't really wrap my head around it, and I'll be dealing with a little bit of that today. So hopefully that helps in some way or another. Looking for my hot dog couch. There it is. And then normally when I do these, the final product would be animated characters. I do the animation for the characters in another program called Character Animator, but sometimes to reduce the buffering time, I will export a still frame and work with that. So this is a good example of that. So let's bring in these two characters here. So I don't think it shows this, but I've just been importing files here. So let's drag them into the composition. This is kind of scaled down. Since it's 4K, these images are really meant for, I think, honestly, 16K. But let's just reduce them to 50 to fit in the frame. There we go. And I don't know if you can see it, but there's all this excess information on the image. So I can just put a mask on that because that's going to be stationary. I want the hot dog couch in front of the wall. Take it down to 50% scale. So everything I'm doing right now, don't even worry about it. It just has to do with the fact that I'm working with pre-made images. I'm just kind of setting up the scene for what we're going to work with today. So like this is the still frame I was talking about. They don't move at all. They look like they're going to. That's because it's a still frame. And then we have the Ottoman. I don't really know that this is an Ottoman. This is really just kind of a garbage desk. So we got our basic background there in the order that we want it. The only other thing that I would like to add is an object on top of that desk for this kitten that we're going to make to jump over. So all I'm doing, what I'm doing right now is I'm putting a mask on these images because they're a lot larger than that, and I don't need the CPU to deal with additional information that's not going to be used anyways. If you're wondering how to export an image without any kind of black, white, or colored background, your solution in Adobe is typically export as PNG with alpha layer. And I could show you how I would do that. I don't really want to, but I could do it in a second here. So let's go into assets, food and drink. What would be fun? I think I did a glass of wine in the actual short. Let's do that again. So we'll take this, we'll put it on top of the Ottoman. Adobe Photoshop has a great way to do it. If any layer is fully merged or whatever, or even not fully merged, but if you have a single layer, that's the item you want to export, you can just go to, I think it's edit, export as PNG, and it takes care of it. But if I was in After Effects and say all I wanted to export was this wine, I can solo that out. I have, this is a, I think, transparency grid. I always have that on, so I don't even know if that's what it is, but I don't have any predetermined background color. But if I just exported that right now, I'll show you how I would do it. If I added that to render K, I would set it for, from the start time of 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, some kind of zeros, all zeros, shows you that this is one frame here that it would export. And then here's where you do the magic. You change it from a QuickTime video to a PNG sequence, and you would go to RGB plus alpha. And then I would set my destination for where I would want the file to go. If I did all that, then I would have that wine glass without any further background. But that's not what we're doing today. So we're going to unsolo that out. So what I'm going to try to do is get this kitten. I'm going to have him just maybe run across the screen, and then I'm going to have him run back on and jump and knock the wine glass off and show you how to do that. So let's get into the cat. So now we have a new folder. Let's call this cat. Like I said, I already have all the parts to the cat drawn. That would be a whole different lesson on how to do that. But the key with what I was just showing you there is that all of these images are PNG with the alpha layer. So I know you probably can't see it, but I'm just importing all the items that I will need. So let's create a new composition. Let's do another 4K, 30 seconds, 24 frames I like to work in. And when you look at this timeline, by the way, if you're ever confused about what it means, it's frames. So it's not, there's nothing with milliseconds in time. This would be like 0 minutes, like right here would be 0 minutes, 0 seconds, and 22 frames. It's not like 22 milliseconds or anything. So we're going to call this comp cat, and let's bring in all of the images. We'll go body, cat, head, left arm. I think I brought in one too many, but so we'll bring all those in. We'll figure out our layer order. Okay, so pretty messy. Let's start by scaling this down. And the big reason I'm scaling it down, if I didn't already say it, is to reduce the buffering time for this. Now, you definitely want a lot of space beyond your cat because he's going to be moving within this composition. So let's begin with, I guess we could set the body right there. Let's do this cat head. So like I said, each of these items, I kind of drew the cat together, but I exported these as PNGs separately. And the reason for that is so that the parts can move separately. When you do render out an image, you lose the kind of liquid qualities of being able to transition the shape of the layer. So this is limiting in that property. And if you're wondering, hey, TMW Productions, this looks like crap and this is garbage, and I am not interested in learning about this because I am already way smarter than you, then that's fine. But if you're not sure about your opinion, then I would watch the short that I made yesterday, or came out with yesterday. It's 17 seconds, and you can kind of make up your mind that way. One funny thing about the creation of this short is when I was making it yesterday, the kitten that inspired it did a swan dive over the couch and knocked over my coffee, and it spilled all over my phone and my desk and my mouse and my mouse pad, and it had 0 apologies to give. All right. I don't need to deal with that, but let's see. I think I have the metal in here. Yep. Where is that? So this is a really small part, but let's get that right in there. And then pupil, where are you? Okay. Speaking of that kitten, it's now requesting to enter the room. So here you have your basic cat. It's not moving. I could press play. Nothing's happening. So now we're going to start applying the movements. And the way that we're going to do that is by beginning with the head. I don't know if you noticed, but there's these separate elements. I don't know if my cat may have made an appearance here. Please don't step on that. Yep, so that's the one that inspired it. But back to this. So what we're going to do is we're going to select all the layers that have to do with the head, and we're going to pre-compose that, and we're going to call this cat head. And the only reason I'm doing that is because I want the pupil and the metal to be moving. I may deal with that head with the ball in it, but I personally don't believe that I will. So we'll just probably leave that part out of the lesson. Okay, so we have the pupil lined up and we have the metal almost lined up. Because they're going to be moving with rotation, it's important to set the anchor point accordingly. And what your anchor point is kind of the spot that will the layer will move from. So what you'll see here is we'll start here, this position rotation. We're going to keyframe that. We're probably going to be doing everything at 4 frames. That seemed to work out well for the last, for what I produced. So bear with me. So if you press that little stopwatch button by the rotation property, and I do like to do position as well, you're establishing a keyframe. So now that that's selected, going to the 4th frame in the timeline, and I'm rotating it. And if you're noticing, it's moving from that anchor point. So we start at 0, and then by frame 8, let's go back to 0. And honestly, I don't even need to change the position. So you see that movement, right? So as a beginner or as a past self, what I used to do is I would keyframe like the whole thing throughout, and I could do different things. And honestly, there's a really great shortcut to that. And you might think it's Control-C, Control-V, or copy and paste, but I got a better one for you. Don't be overwhelmed by written expressions. They're super simple. So you just press Alt, click on rotation, and we're going to type in loop out. And we're going to be doing that with almost everything. And so we press that. And now if I press play, that's continually bumping up and down. We really don't have to do the pupil, but I'm already halfway there. So we'll do the pupil too. So we're going to do, I remember how I did this too. Okay, so with the pupil, let's say we want the pupil to move, but the problem is this eye is an oval. So if I move it here, then I don't know if you can see it. Let's try to zoom in a little more, but let's try to zoom in. So with the pupil, it's kind of just like almost more like a rectangle, since I gave him that narrow cat eye. So if I'm moving it into the corner, it's going to stick out from the eye, and that's not going to look very good. So what we can do actually is let's create a new layer. Let's make it bright red. Make it calm size, sure, why not? And we are going to create a mask. And what this mask is going to do is it's going to allow us to control the boundaries of where that pupil can actually move. Let's just not see it. Okay, so if you click on mask expansion, you can move only these vertices, like one at a time. Not the most effective way, since we are trying to create an oval, but I'm trying to just do this really fast and carelessly. So we'll do it that way. Okay, so that's kind of, that's a decent outline. We can click add whatever. So obviously we don't want that to be the pupil. But the reason I'm doing this is I can set that red solid one. We'll just rename it eye outline. I can take that eye outline. I can make a track mat. So you're going to click on this track mat here. And you can, if you don't see that, there's a button here that switches what you're viewing. It's called toggle switches modes. You just click that if it's not already showing. But you click that track mat. We're going to click on eye outline, and it's After Effects is kind of like already programmed that when you click that, it automatically hides the alpha layer or the track mat layer. You don't have to keep it hidden though. If I wanted to, I can click on this eye here if I wanted to, so that I could see it, but I don't want to see it. But what I do want is for that range to limit where you can see the pupil. So now if I take the pupil outside of the eye, it disappears because of that mask we created. So since I did all that, let's do some pointless keyframing. We'll start there, maybe at frame 4. We'll go in here and down. Maybe not. I hope it works. And then I can just press Control C, Control V there. So now it's in the exact same position it started. That's kind of a really pointless movement. Let's actually, so let's go out to 16 and Control V again. So something important to remember when you create these loop out, when you create these, we're going to do another loop out. Something important to remember about that is you're telling it, you have to keep in mind the spacing of it. So that's the reason why I have the same frame here that I have here. If I didn't have that, then it would start in this position. It would slowly move to this position. But then here at frame 5, it would jump back to the starting position. And I could show you what that looks like. But here's how we just programmed it. So now in the overall thing, his eye is moving repeatedly. And honestly, let's do this over the course of 8 frames instead of 4. But I'll give you an example of what I was talking about here in a second. And then if I take this out, let's say his eye is moving too much. Remember, it's just repeating the keyframes that I've given it. So now it's going to slowly move out, but maybe I want it to fidget back. So we'll just press Control C on that first keyframe, Control V, and now at frame 12, it's back in position. So now the eye is constantly moving. But let me just real quick show you why. Let's say I didn't have that end frame to be in the position that it was in the first keyframe. This is what it would look like. It would just be jumping back to it on frame 5. So press Control Z to undo, and I'm good with that. All right, so we have our cat head. Now we go back to cat. So keep in mind that cat head composition is in the composition of the cat. So it's kind of like that Christopher Nolan movie, that Dream Within a Dream. That's how you got to try to comprehend compositions. So if I press play here, I can see there's some movement in the cat head. Okay. So we have a left arm and left leg. Obviously, we also want a right arm. And we want a right leg. And what all I'm doing is I'm pressing Control D for duplicating it. And if you're on a Mac, the key is going to be, I have no idea because I don't have a Mac. And quite honestly, I'm very impressed by people that give tutorials and know how it works on other devices because I do not have the patience to look that up. I'm sure it's just a button, but I don't know what it is. All right. The important part is the right arm and the right leg are on the opposite side of the body. In all these programs, it always has preference for what's on top. What's on top shows first. In other words, if I put the body in front of everything, then I would be hiding the collar because it's on top of the cat head. Okay. So we have all this positioned. Now we have to do, actually, we're going to delete this real quick and I'll show you why. We have to set the anchor points. So see that left arm? If I press rotate on it right now, it would be rotating from that anchor point. That's incorrect and not smart. So we're going to click this little pan behind tool, which apparently is a shortcut Y that you could press for it, but we're going to set that there. Now, if I rotate it, it's actually rotating from where the shoulder would be. Okay, we're going to do the same thing with the left leg. I'm going to click on, it's already clicked. We're going to move that up there. That seems like a reasonable place for the leg to move from. Yep. And now we're going to go to, I don't know that we need to change the body. I don't even know that we're going to have it move. This kitten is now standing on my hand and the mouse. So that's great. So let's move this right over here. We want it moving from here. So the cool thing with the anchor point is if I rotate it, like that tail stays pretty hidden. We can actually do that a little bit more in here. So now even when I'm rotating, whatever. So whatever, it is what it is. Okay. Going to press V, get back to our normal mouse. Now we can duplicate this left leg. We'll call that right leg. And then put that behind the body. We'll duplicate the left arm with Control D. We're going to call this right arm. We're going to put this behind the body. Okay, and now we can start having some fun. Let's start with the left arm. I'm going to click that little stopwatch for position rotation. Like I said, we're just going to stay with 4 frames. So that's the arm kind of in the drawn back position, and then let's raise it up to here. So we have plus 70 there, and let's go to frame 8 and go back to 0. Let's see how that looks. That's pretty good. I could mess with the position, but you know what? I'm not going to. It's the same exact principles. Left leg. So now we got the left leg. Let's start here. Let's go to frame 4, and let's have this left arm. I think that looks right. Let's do minus 70 on that because I like that number better. And then we're going to go to frame 8, and we're going to go to 0. Okay, and I should have done this on the left arm already, but oh well. We're going to press Alt, click, and get this up, and then you're going to click loop out, and then shift parentheses, or I don't know. You can see what I'm typing. It's shift 9, shift 0. I'm forgetting what that is right now. I think it's parentheses. Yeah, I'm getting parentheses and apostrophe confused. So now we have loop out on that. We want loop out on left arm. And by the way, if you ever do loop out and regret it and wonder how to recover your huge mistake, all you have to do is hold down Alt and click back on that stopwatch, and it'll immediately remove that loop out property. So let's see how that looks. That's a little fast, but whatever, we'll deal with it. So we have the left arm, the left leg done. Now let's do the same thing. Let's go to the right arm. Now, because this cat's running, remember, it's actually going to start in an opposite. It's going to have a kind of an opposite cycle. In other words, on frame 4, we'll be in the 0 position. And then frame 1, let's go in the, I think it was 70. Yeah. So we'll start with 70. We'll go to frame 8. We're going to click, enter in 70 again. We're going to click Alt, click on that stopwatch, type loop, capital O-U-T, parentheses, I don't know. Inner parentheses, outer parentheses. What's the difference? Okay, so now we have his arms moving. Now he's starting to look like a runner. Let's go to that right leg. Once again, that we're going to go to frame 4, click 0 on rotation, and then let's start at, I believe it was 70 also. No, it was probably -70. Okay, so we're going to start at -70. We're going to go to frame 8. We're going to do -70 again. I'm going to hold down Alt, click on that stopwatch, type loop out, Shift 9, and then Shift 0 for those that get confused about the word parentheses sometimes. I don't know why that right leg looks. Why is that? What is that? Okay, so that right leg is off because -70, 0, 0. Oh, because I clicked +70 there. So no problem. Don't have to really undo anything. Just enter in -70. Okay, now we basically have a running cat. Let's just do a little bit with the tail and the head, and then we'll have him running through the original composition. And remember, this alpha layer is super important because if I have a black background and I drag it into another composition, then it'll block the other elements. All right, let's get moving. I'm going to start with the tail rotation at 0. We'll go to frame 4 again. And I do actually advise doing these at irregular intervals because the running looks slightly more authentic. But just for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to have it at typical regular intervals. In other words, not everything has to be on frame 4 and frame 8. It doesn't have to land like that. Okay, so we got some tail movement. We're going to click Alt, click that stopwatch, type loop out. These parentheses. Oh, I think I might have screwed it up. No, maybe not. Yeah, so after you type it, all you have to do is click off and it has it. Now let's give him some head movement. The head, I'm probably going to have to keyframe both the position and the rotation. That's just the way it works. Actually, where's the vertices for this? Okay, so see, this is a great example of the importance of anchor points. This anchor point, because this is a 4K composition, the anchor point is automatically in the center of the composition. So if I don't move that and I go to rotate it, his head's falling off. It's flying off. And you know, people don't like to see cats' heads flying off. So we definitely don't want that. So we're going to click, I think the shortcut is Y, but I always just click the button. We're going to click that. We're going to have it move from here. And what we can also do, because we don't need this whole 4K for it, is we can create a mask for it. I hate circle mask. It doesn't matter. It worked fine. But I'm going to click Q. Now I have the square, and let's just make a mask there. Okay. So now we're going to keyframe position rotation. Let's go to frame 4 and let's have it rotate here. Now you see I have it rotate there. It's coming off the body a little bit. So we got to shift the position just a little bit. And then I can actually select these 2 keyframes, press Control C, go up to frame 8 on the timeline and press Control V. Now let's see how that works. Okay, that's pretty good. So now I'm going to click Alt, position, loop out, parentheses, click off, Alt rotation, Alt click on rotation, type loop out, click off. Okay, so now we have our running cat. However, there's one big issue, and that's the cat is not moving. It looks like it's moving. It looks like it wants to be moving, but it's not moving. So now we're going to go back to our original composition that we named the room. We're going to drag cat in, and we could scale him down. We probably should scale him down. Let's take this down to 75%. There we go. All right, we're getting close. Okay, so now here's the cool thing is I'm just going to make a little mask about it. The cool thing is now I have all those properties of this composition, are saved up right here. If I wanted to move multiple elements at a time within the same composition, in other words, if I had the arms and the legs and the tail and the body and the head in here, and I want them all move at once, I could do that by, if I click toggle switches mode, and I created a parent for it, and I parented it. So I guess to give you an example of how that would work, if I were to parent the wine glass right now to the cat composition, if I change the position of the cat, the wine glass would move with it. But I would say there are times where you do definitely have to use parenting. This is absolutely not one of them. This is better with a composition. So let's keyframe the first frame, and let's place the cat over yonder, and we're going to have him run across the screen. So we'll start there at 0 seconds, and let's say over the course of 4 seconds, he makes his way across the screen. I'm just going to click that align button. If I click on it and click shift and move it, then it's going to move in a straight line. So let's see how that looks. All right, we have a cat running across the screen. Obviously, he would be a little bit lower than that. So we'll select both keyframes, drag it down, and that did the opposite of what I thought it would. So we'll just go to the first keyframe. Let's bring him down to here. And then that's going to be 1952 on the y-axis. So I'm just going to type it in manually, 1952. And now he's running in a straight line. Okay, we have a cat running across the screen. It's pretty slow, but at least that way you got to see it. I'll zoom in since we did all that work just for the glory of him running. Okay, so now he's running across. But now what we want is him to spill that glass of wine. We want him running from the other side. So how are we going to do it? Well, it's actually pretty simple. Shocker. Let's get that same animation in here. And all we're going to do is transform. We're going to right click on it. Well, actually, let's rename it. This doesn't change any properties with the composition. I'm going to rename this cat right profile, and I'm going to right click on it. And all I'm going to do is click transform, flip horizontal. Let's scale that down to 75, or because it's flipped, it'll be -75. And now it's facing the other way. So we have this cat running across till 4 seconds. So let's say at 4 seconds, we want this one to come in. You can move one page. You click page down to move one frame over. All right, so let's start with this keyframe. Let's bring him over here. And we do want him jumping on the ottoman, but I think it's important to do it this way. It'll just kind of make your life easier. Let's go up to, I don't know, 8 seconds. And we'll drag him over to this side of the screen. And so now we have him running across the screen in the opposite direction. Let's see how that looks. Okay, it's kind of slow, but I think it's effective for the lesson. Maybe I'll move that up a little bit, though. Let's just move it up by a second. Page up to move one frame at a time. Okay, so now he's running across the screen from 4 seconds to 7 seconds. But obviously, we want him to jump onto this ottoman. So I'm going to find a spot here where he might take the jump, and I think that's a good spot. Anytime you see that little blue dot there, that means your time on the timeline, you're over a keyframe that you inserted. So let's go to right here. Let's say he's still flat to this point. And then here he's going to jump. And right here is where he's going to land. So here is where I want him to be positioned like this, and maybe kind of rotated there. Notice I'm only moving the y-axis, and I'm not messing with the x-axis. And the reason for that is it makes his velocity look continuous. Okay, so that's decent. But let's have him here. Let's have him rotated this way. And let's actually bring him up a little bit more. So he's jumping over the table. Okay, so now he's running into the drink. And then right here he's running into the drink. And then maybe he tumbles forward. Let's have him just do a flip there. And how I can do that is I just go on this rotation and this part of the timeline, and let's just add a number 1 in the first field, and that'll do 1 full rotation. Okay, so it does a flip, and then let's say we'll have him flip, and when he finishes the flip, let's say he's back on the ground. And when he's back on the ground, initially maybe he is let's start rotating back. And then one at 0 there. Okay, let's see how that physics look on that. I don't know what that was. Oh, it's because I typed 0. Let's just delete that. Okay, that's good. All right, so we have the basic cat animation. The only thing missing is that glass of wine is unaffected. So real quick, we'll just get the glass of wine falling. We'll add some spilled wine, and then we're done. Okay, so we find, where does the cat meet the wine glass in the timeline? Right there. So wine glass, we're going to keyframe it here with position, rotation, and then maybe by here, it's on the ground. So I'm going to just bring it over here, roughly where it would fall. We'll go right there. We'll add some rotation, and let's see how that looks. Okay, it looks good, but objects don't fall in a diagonal line like that. So what I can do is just bring it up here on the y-axis. That's pretty decent. And actually, we can give it a flip too by adding 1. So see, the second property is the degree angle. The first property is how many times it's rotating. Actually, let's go crazy. Let's make this thing flip like 8 times. Just to demonstrate. Yeah, well, that was way too fast to see. Maybe 2 times. Oops. Okay. You know what? I'm done messing around. Okay, so the wine glass falls, the cat hits it. That's all great. But we want to add some spilled wine. So we're going to zoom in here. It'll be the last part of this lesson. Create new solid. We'll call this spilled wine. I don't need it to be I don't need it to be this many pixels, but it's 4K. It's not very CPU intensive, so let's just leave it at that. So let's put that behind the wine glass. And if you notice, the way I selected the color was this little tool right here. I just press that. Whatever I hover it over, it will take that color. So let's make a little mask. And the important part with this mask is to add a few different vertices. So let's do an oval mask. We'll go right here. I'm going to click on this little vertex tool, whatever you want to call it. Just going to add some, and that's all we need there. Here we're going to keyframe the actual mask. So I'm going to click on mask path and mask expansion. Okay, so here, now we're going to click page down to kind of see the effects of where it might land. And I think that it would land right here. So let's ignore the cat for the time being, and we're just going to worry about that mask. I'm going to drag. So Part of the reason I like creating layers, the size of the composition, is I'm moving the mask and not the layer. So if that layer was only like 100 by 100 pixels and I move that mask out here, then it would show nothing because the layer doesn't cover that size. I know it's kind of confusing, but I don't really feel like demonstrating it, so sorry. All right, so the wine spills there, but by this point, it's going to be a little bit larger. So we're going to take these vertices. I'm going to click on mask expansion so it knows that's the property I want. Let's kind of create how the spilled wine might look. I don't know if you can see, but my cat is breaking objects in the back. It's really my girlfriend's cat, but I don't mind it. And to be honest, cats are really easy, so not really. I would like a big dog, but I don't have a problem with cats. Okay, so that's kind of how a spilled glass of wine might look, consistent with the angle. We don't have to mess with it too much. So now, if we go frame by, we can go frame by frame first. Oops. And then you can use the comma and the period to zoom in and zoom out in After Effects. So if I press page down, you know, it's kind of trailing behind it. And if I wanted to be honest, I could just double click on this mask and I could bring it up here. And I also could have just parented it to the wine glass. That would be an example, but yeah, so now it kind of pops out a little bit. So maybe right here, actually, it might be over here more. Maybe, I don't think I want to rotate it, but it might be over here more. And then maybe it lands like over here. And then maybe over the next few seconds, it expands. So I know it's kind of hard to see on that Ottoman, but let's do this to demonstrate it. Let's go to kind of a brighter color, and we'll use that track matte over the Ottoman to show it. Okay. So here you can see the wine glass spill, and there's the wine. All right. Let's get rid of that track matte. All right, let's see our finished product. We are done, but here it is. You have a cat running across, and then he comes back, and then a ghost knocks over it. All right, so sorry, I got to put the eyeball back on that. All right, so you have a cat runs by, just like this one, and then it comes back, hits the wine glass, and you also have your spilled wine that you can't even see, but just so you can see it. And there you go. Real basic animation lesson. But that will be it for today. Thank you for joining or for not watching. I don't really care. And that'll be it. What's up, dog? I see Guillermo posted. And that's it for today. We're going to end the stream. Cool. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you learned something. And then here's the monster that inspired it. He does not stop, and he's looking to break things. So that's it. Have a good one.